Hey guys, I wanted to make a video for you guys to listen to a book in case you don't have one at home or you're interested in one of these. So this video, okay, is going to be about the Bear Grylls adventures, and this one is the Volcano Challenge. I'm not sure if I have this one in my classroom. I think I do, but this is my daughter's version at home. So it says, "In the wild, you're stronger together. Bear Grylls Adventures, the Volcano Challenge." Chapter 1, Magma Quest. The ground shook. Chunks of fire flew through the air. Charlie ducked and dodged, getting out of the way of the flying fragments. Whenever they hit the ground, they blasted everything away, leaving a crater full of molten rock. Charlie ignored the voice. He had to concentrate. A blazing boulder was coming right for him. He was going too fast to stop. It was too late to swerve. The boulder smashed into the ground right in front of him, leaving a deadly crater of bubbling lava. One touch could mean instant death. Charlie only had one choice. Jump. 1, 2, 3. Charlie! Charlie looked up. He was sitting at a picnic table in a forest clearing with his friends Joe, Harry, and Ollie. They were at camp. There were no flying rocks or craters, but two of his friends were looking worried. "We just got the 5-minute warning," Harry said, "and we're on cleanup today, Charlie, remember?" Ollie added. Charlie had been too busy playing Magma Quest on his tablet to actually eat anything. He grabbed his bacon with one hand and looked again at the screen. His character crunched face first into the crater. Game over. "Ugh!" he groaned. "I never get across that crater." Harry pretended to give an enormous yawn. Ollie dropped his head to one side and started to snore loudly. Joe smiled. "Tell us something new," he said kindly. "You're obsessed." Ollie pushed back from the table and picked up his tray. "See over there, Charlie?" he said. Charlie swallowed some bread and washed it down with juice as he watched the others walk off. He still had a banana to eat. Maybe he could have one more try while he finished his breakfast? Bananas! Charlie thought suddenly. Bananas were slippery, weren't they? Maybe that was the trick. If he played in anti-gravity mode, then he could make his character skid a little. That way he'd just glide along. Charlie licked his fingers clean and restarted the level. He just dodged the first flying boulder when, "Charlie! Charlie!" He looked up. Everyone on cleanup duty was waiting for him on the other side of the clearing. There were more picnic tables covered with plates and pots and pans. The leader was smiling, kind of. "Oh, sorry. Hang on," Charlie called. "Just a couple more seconds should do it." "Charlie, now," the leader called, sounding annoyed. "Put that away." Charlie reluctantly paused the game. As he walked over to the others, he could almost hear Magma Quest calling him. All he needed was another try, and he'd smash it this time. "Right." The leader clapped his hands together and gave them all a big smile. "Let's get started." Charlie could feel himself getting annoyed. If he didn't have to bother with this silly cleanup, he could finish the level. "Gather everything up," said the leader. "Uneaten food into compost bags, cutlery into this basket here. Plates can be heavy, so don't carry more than 5 at a time, please. You can work in pairs." Charlie could feel his chance to play Magma Quest slipping away and his bad mood get worse. "Charlie and Fatima, you two work together." "Great," thought Charlie. His shoulders slumped. This really was game over. Fatima and Charlie took opposite sides of the table. Charlie picked up a couple of plates and felt his thumb squelch into a blob of butter and jam. Yuck! He looked up at Fatima. She was busy working. It would only take 30 seconds. He could get over the crater, get the level out of the way, and then get on with cleanup. Charlie pulled the tablet out. His character wobbled on the edge of the crater, then tumbled into the fire at the bottom before Charlie could react. Another life down. His character reappeared on the other side of the field. He aimed at the crater again, started to run. "Charlie!" Fatima was staring at him from beside a neatly stacked pile of plates, clearly annoyed. He looked back at the screen and groaned. He lost another life. And now Fatima was nagging him as well. Sorry, Mom, Charlie muttered sarcastically. He paused the game again. He chucked cutlery into the bowl and piled the plates up, uneaten food squished up between them. You're meant to scrape the food off first, said Fatima. Charlie ran out of patience. You do it then, he snapped angrily. He sat down and he went back to Magma Quest. He knew he was being bad-tempered, but he couldn't help himself. He just wanted to finish the level, and she was interrupting him. It was so annoying. Charlie, it was the leader. He plucked the game out of Charlie's hands. Concentrate on your job, he told Charlie firmly. You can play this later. That is so unfair, Charlie protested, crashing the plates together crossly. He looked up just in time to see Fatima try to pick up a pile of plates that was way too big for her to manage on her own. The pile slipped through her fingers and smashed onto the ground. Crash! Charlie felt bad. Maybe it was partly his fault Fatima had tried to carry all those plates. He'd been horrible to her when she'd tried to get him to help. He went over to see if he could help her clean up. Lucky you were wearing your boots, he said, looking down at the sharp fragments of broken plates. It could have really hurt otherwise. He paused. You okay? Fatima was still gazing down at her feet. Eventually she looked up. Yes, I'm fine. And, thanks, Charlie. Charlie started clearing and piling everything up correctly. He didn't want to cause another accident. They worked as a team and soon caught up. The leader was pleased with both of them at the end. He held the tablet out, and Charlie almost snatched it out of his hand. There was still a bit of time before capture the flag. Hey, Charlie, Fatima said. Want to see something cool? Charlie didn't look up. He was sprinting through a field of craters and flying fireballs. Just a few more seconds. It worked. The anti-gravity slide took him right over the crater. Fatima put something on the table next to him. Charlie saved the game and looked up. It looked like a weird watch in a thick rubber case, but without a strap. He turned it over in his fingers. No buttons. No screen. It looked boring. What does it do? Fatima smiled. Perhaps you'll find out, she said. Just consider it a gift. A compass can come in handy. Thanks. Maybe I can use it and capture the flag. Well, you'd better get going in that case, Fatima laughed. They're starting in a couple of minutes. Charlie liked capture the flag a lot. There was no time to take his tablet back to the tent, and he sprinted away from the clearing. There was no way he was going to miss the start. Alright, so now we are on chapter 2, Capture the Flag, and there's the picture there of the chapter. So chapter 2, Capture the Flag. Everyone was standing around the mound in the middle of the clearing with a flag planted in it. A couple of leaders were drawing names out of a hat while everyone watched and crossed their fingers. Jack, the leader called. Jack grinned and went to stand over to one side. Susie, Adam. Meanwhile, another leader was handing out Velcro armbands to everyone else. Okay, the leader called. The rules are simple. The clue is in the name. Capture the flag without being caught. These 10 here are the guardians. They defend the flag. If they pull your armband off, then you become a guardian yourself. Smart, Charlie said to Harry and Joe. So every time someone gets caught, the number of guardians goes up, and it gets harder for everyone else. The best games always got harder as they went on. It was never any fun if things were too easy. Charlie looked over at the stream that ran on one side of the clearing. He whispered to Harry and Joe, I have a plan. The boys rolled their eyes. Charlie was always so serious about strategy. The leader blew his whistle. Everyone with an armband turned and ran for the trees. Charlie put a hand on each of his friends' shoulders. Follow me. The plan almost worked. Charlie had led the boys through the woods and then doubled back to the stream. He was good at remembering directions. After all, he'd played enough computer games to know how important it was to remember layouts of levels and rooms. As they moved through the trees, he pictured a map in his head of where they had been. They'd moved carefully, keeping their eyes peeled for guardians. They had heard shouts of triumph and frustration. With every yell, they knew that more players were being caught and more guardians were being created. They'd followed the stream toward the clearing. When Charlie had seen the stream, it had reminded him of a computer game he had at home, Under Siege. You had to work against the clock to defend your castle from attack, and one of the best ways was to dig a moat to protect yourself. If you were behind a moat, nothing could get you. It had given him an idea. So what we do, Charlie had explained, is two of us go up to the clearing and we let the guardians see us. They'll come running, but they won't want to get wet, so they'll run along the stream on the other side until they can get across. Meanwhile, one of us, who doesn't mind getting wet, gets across the stream and captures the flag. He'd volunteered to be one of the decoys. He didn't want to risk dropping his tablet in the stream. Harry was going to go for the flag, while Charlie and Joe distracted the guardians and made them run after them on the other side of the stream. Intruders! They had been spotted. Jack and Fatima burst through the trees ahead and charged forward. But instead of running alongside the stream, Jack and Fatima both splashed straight into the water, kicking it up as they charged with huge grins on their faces. Split! Joe shouted, and they all ran off in separate directions. Charlie hurled over logs and tree roots, wondering why his plan hadn't worked. The strategy was perfect and under siege, so why had it failed in capture the flag? Okay, people were always telling him that computer games weren't like real life, but he had been so sure. Charging through the woods was like racing through the levels on Magma Quest. Only in real life, there was more mud and a lot more effort required. He wished he could use anti-gravity mode now. He felt the tablet slipping around in his pocket, and he grabbed it as he jumped another ditch. He was back at the campfire clearing, where last night's bonfire was still smoldering in the middle. A small tickle of gray smoke drifted up from the pile of ash. Now that he was on his own, Charlie needed to come up with a new plan to get him back to the flag. He crouched down behind a pile of logs and pictured the map in his head. The flag clearing was on the north side of the woods. But which way was north? It would be so handy to have a digital map right now, like the tiny one in the corner of the screen on Magma Quest. He could just pinch it and zoom in on exactly where he was, or even just a compass icon on screen like in a compass! Fatima had given him one. Charlie dug into his pocket and pulled it out. Maybe it really was going to be useful after all. He looked at the dial. It was weird. This one had 5 points on it, not the usual 4. And the needle was just spinning around and around. Well, that was useless. No wonder Fatima hadn't wanted it. Charlie looked up and saw wood smoke from the fire coming straight at him, but not just a trickle, a huge great cloud. In a moment, the smoke was black and dense, covering him completely. His eyes stung and his lungs burned. It didn't smell like wood either. It stank like rotten eggs. Burnt rotten eggs. It was the most disgusting thing Charlie had ever smelled. His eyes streamed with tears, and he bent double, gagging and coughing. Then the smoke began to clear, and Charlie waved a hand in front of his face. Through his damp, sore eyes, he looked around in amazement. He wasn't at camp. Charlie was standing on a slope of dark gray rock. The rock sloped gently in front of him and then fell sharply away. Charlie edged forward just enough to see that he was hundreds of feet up in the air, maybe half a mile or more. Far, far below him was a flat gray desert, the color of ash. He searched the horizon in front of him, but all he could see was a gray rock stretching as far as the eye could see. Here and there, puffs of smoke jutted up out of the ground. There were no trees, no plants. Not one scrap of life was visible. It looked like the surface of the moon. Out of the corner of his eye, Charlie saw a flash of color. He jerked his head around. The stream of red-hot lava was flowing down the slope about 200 feet behind him. He could feel its warmth on his skin. Charlie looked up. Ugh. What he had seen had terrified him. He recoiled and instantly crouched down. He was sure 1,000,000 tons of rock was about to fall down on him, just like in Magma Quest. Charlie was very near the summit of a giant volcano. The top of the mountain was jagged, like a broken tooth, and the lava stream was pouring out through one of the gaps. Thick, black smoke rose up behind it in a column. It must have been a mile high and 1,000,000,000 times thicker than the wood smoke at camp. It looked so solid. It looked impossible. How could all those rocks be falling upward? Charlie was paralyzed with fear. Then a man's voice spoke right behind him. We need to get off this mountain. It could explode again any minute. So we'll stop there. That's chapter 1 and 2. And then the next video, we'll have the next 15 or 20 minutes or so.